I did not have relations with that love-ander. Sup, schizos?
Look at Chinese Waldo Ryan plushie.
Pokemon was really cool growing up, but after Black and White 2, the series kinda fell off. A lack of innovation kinda let the game stagnate up until Arceus Legends, and even then, we still are suffering from subpar Pokemon games. Luckily, that's where Palworld threw live grenades into the crowd that is Game Freak's market share. To the untrained Palworld is simply Pokemon with guns, which is already an entertaining concept. However, beneath the surface, this is Breath of the Wild, Fortnite, Ark Survival, Big Pharma, the military-industrial complex, with Pokemon that are more openly sociopathic than secretly perverted, like Typhlosion or the Hex Maniac selling you moo-moo milk in X and Y. These are misnomered as pals, as if you aren't going to throw most of them into a sweatshop to create your monopoly on violence. Using and depressing animals for cheap labor, however, is still significantly more ethical than outright slavery. But since I know my audience, don't worry, you can do that too. So now you know what you're working with, and as is our civil duty by the CCP to make the unhealthiest working conditions possible, we've got to grind. The general gameplay for Palworld has two major aspects, exploration and industry. For every level you gain, a new group of tech will open up, allowing you to build more industry. You can increase this social credit score by finding towers and exploring caves, giving tech points from loot chests. When you start the game, after you've caught a few unpaid interns, you're gonna make a PAL box. The PAL box is where you'll put your workers, industry, and build defenses from the hobos who want your delicious, valuable lungs. The best place to put these is near resource deposits, such as coal, sulfur, stone, ore, or quartz, depending on what you want to build the most of. Because as every European nation with an African colony knew, and China is currently exploiting, rocks are shiny and valuable, especially so when mined by the underdeveloped. Specific pals are good for specific jobs, and if you get lucky, you'll capture pals with traits that make them super soldiers of industry in your illegal operations. Pro tip, Bowser, much like a child, yearns for the mines, and is very good at it. Collect thy shit, and then build thy base, as Lord demandeth. When collecting materials, it helps to understand what areas are best for specific exploitation. This separates the imperialist boy from the imperialist whose language is still spoken today. In the mountains near spawn is a spot to grind ore. In the volcanoes, sulfur deposits. In the desert, an abundance of coal, creating ample resources to take any underdeveloped slave colony. Later upgrades require copious amounts of quartz for circuits. Finally, we need oil to not only tell Kaczynski to fuck off by recreating the Gilded Age, but also to further justify our presence in the Middle East. Oil is most prevalent in the desert and endgame Cherry Blossom Islands. You will need a lot of it, and you will kill for it. Besides the shiny rock, your bases will need reliable food sources from agriculture, because food is important, and famine is for communists. Cooking food also helps with your pal's sanity, which depreciates faster the more they work. Benches are where the sweatshops really come into their own, as certain pals will craft your weapons, armor, and items. Storage is also important, as this game has a shitload of items, and you will fill up your inventory on random shit. Crafting benches allow you to pull from storage within the radius to your PAL box. However, if you hoard crafting recipes, you have to manually equip them. I pray this gets fixed before Nintendo has their personal corporate Yakuza lawyers give the devs a lawsuit resulting in the death penalty because they gave Fat Pikachu a minigun. You have the option to keep up with your pal's health with a medicine bench, and originally, I didn't. But due to current events, I've decided to start. Ranching and breeding farms are for sticking your pals into a fence, then making them kith till pregnant or until they excrete the pal oil you need. On the topic of making my pals snuggle, I feel it necessary to point out that canonically, you can birth a mammal elephant from an egg, because Palworld devs do not care about making sense. They care about fun mechanics, and beating Lockheed Martin to the punch of genetically breeding a dragon and then sticking heat-seeking missile silos as a substitute for an AC-130. As a side note, now that Palworld is doing collabs, they should ask defense contractors to pay for their legal fees against Nintendo in exchange for putting their devices in-game. Palworld gets continued support and development, while defense contractors get an army of furries in their workspace with early awakened tech job autism. Because as we all know by this theorem I made up, the furry tech job Venn diagram is a circle. And if you think this game isn't targeted at furries, keep in mind there is a PAL that canonically drugs men and then touches them in the gear shift, like certain female rappers. Anyways, Palworld. I've given you the tools. Make Nintendo fight the military-industrial complex on legal grounds because it'd be funny. Now, where was I? Yes, breeding and excreting. Ranches produce PALs, farmable items, when used, like PAL oil and cloth. Furnaces refine your ores, and after unlocked in late game, you can have personalized mines in base. A bunch of themed accessories can also be found to boost PAL's productivity. This is genuinely a realistic representation, not because it works IRL, but it feeds into my obsessive need to buy things related to my niche interests. This is why I own uranium, a mahogany wood F-15, and Sniper Monkey in a boot. Financial responsibility be damned. My tism demands a sacrifice from my wallet. With this newfound production boost, progression should be a breeze. However, much like the punch bowl at a high school prom, the difficulty is about to get spiked. Bosses in this game have more health than the cumulative GDP of Asia. The bosses are the leaders of the factions in-game. The Rain Syndicate is in the starting area and specializes in poaching, led by a femcell with a minigun-wielding fat Pikachu. She's not that bad to fight, and I beat her first try. The Free Pal Alliance are hippies, and a stand-in for PETA, as they are incompetent and somehow less extremist than the real thing. They are led by a woman named after an evil woman in Jewish folklore. She's also very killable, unlike the next four. Brothers of the Eternal Pyre are a bunch of cult members worshipping fire and drinking Kool-Aid that, for whatever reason, use an electric type for their final boss. The PIDF has nothing to do with any current superpower, and definitely does not occupy the town of merchants in the desert, and does not have any ties to the land of milk and honey. They are led by a colonel with a firebird, which is also off-theme. The PAL Genetic Research Unit are eugenicists, hell-bent on creating the perfect PAL via selective breeding and genetic manipulation. Their closest success was Shadowbeak, used by an emo mad scientist that I'm afraid will probably end his own life. The Moonflowers are high-level ninjas with swords, following a moon cultist, waiting on the crescent moon for Selene, whom I now own, making them pissy for controlling their messiah. So have fun killing these people's religion before suffering to a boss with health more inflated than pyrocynical search history. Gear. The things you will desire most in gear is armor, guns, and a readable PAL to traverse better. Guns and artillery are a bit of a grind. Just getting to the handgun is a hassle. The guns in game are as follows: makeshift handgun, a 1911 chambered and 50 AE, a musket, an AR, a shotgun, because how else am I supposed to trench sweep the Germans, a grenade launcher, minigun, rocket launcher, meteorite variant rocket launcher to appease my spacism, and a laser rifle because theming is for players attracted to logic. And Palworld players aren't attracted to logic. They're attracted to OSHA violations, and convincing the lower class to maximize shareholder value. Armor sets are also highly expensive, and I recommend waiting till you get a rare recipe for high-value gear, because for some reason, these recipes give you higher stats than the regular thing. I can only assume they were left behind by some more intelligent race, but since I am effectively fighting 6 different cults, it is hard to get info on that. So, for all intents and purposes, let's just say Yakub did it. Merchants are also extremely useful, as PAL organs, recipes, and other commodities difficult to find can be bought in bulk. I assume these merchants have mass butcher shops overseas, but until their operations become a threat to mine, I will continue to use them similar to the Sino-USA alliance. Because when the only thing stopping you from exploiting unethical business practices is a strongly worded letter from losers who can't manage their own country, I'm going to never give a shit and continue sending them illegal goods. When you eventually get a high enough level, there's a bunch of islands with high risk, high reward bullshit. The technological-looking islands contain rare pals only found on those islands with spawn rates rarer than albino children. There is also an oil rig with ground defenses comparable to Israel's Iron Dome. It will shoot you out of the sky, and you will get swarmed, so I recommend sharing the suffering with a friend if you want to realistically take this thing down. Oil rig PMC aside, at the other three corners of the map are the game's farmable legendaries, only caught with legendary or ultimate balls, and enough Live Monk idolatry sacrifice to the Anubis statue, raising your ability to catch pals. There are also caves scattered throughout the map, good for grinding late game rare items, like these mysterious tablets the game crafted to destroy your magnum opus of a base you built. Summoned bosses, while high in reward, will kill and destroy everything you hold dear. I recommend looking up how to make a kill base for these and having pals strong enough to defeat, defend, and defenestrate. Otherwise, your base will get wacoed. All things considered, I've had more fun with Palworld than almost any other game as of recent. Chocked full of fun ideas like a napalm fox, a fat Pikachu with a minigun, a rocket silo on an energy dragon, politically charged factions with actual murderers and terrorists, and the ability to grief hippies, like Ronald Reagan intended. Truly, this game was a joy to play and a love letter to indie studios that can try new things and support having fun ideas.
I rate it a healthy 9 Chinese child workers out of 5 Alibaba cheap electronic, which brings this game score to a nice, healthy 13 collapsing textile factory.
Phenomenal game. Instead of screaming, they have rights, it actively encourages me to be God's most deranged employer. For a third of any AAA game, I definitely got my money's worth. Thank you all for watching, and subscribe to Waterboard Communist I found begging for food outside, because human rights don't account for human wrongs. Speaking of human wrongs, if you want to support the moral decay of the YouTube youth psyche, consider becoming a Patreon or buying a hat to fund my extravagant lifestyle. Also, by the time I release this video, I can promise you that the DLC will probably invalidate everything I just said. So, if you want to see a part 2, let me know in the comments. More content to come, hopefully in a sooner manner. And as always, thank you all for watching.